Hi, I'm Shelley Wood and this is my tiny sewing room where I make doll clothes sewing videos. Today I'm going to show you how to make a pretty 3-tier summer skirt which will fit vintage ideal Tammy dolls and dolls with a similar body like the Pedigree Sindy doll. But before we begin, please go to shelleywood.com to download and print these 2 free PDF sewing patterns. There's a helpful link in the description below this video on YouTube. Use the pattern to cut out 3 strips of different cotton fabrics as instructed on the pattern. Along the longest edge of the ruffle piece, fold once and then a second time to create a double fold hem. So you'll see me doing that here. I fold it once and then I fold it again the second time, and now I'm ready to begin my stitches on that hem. Either whip stitch along this hem's edge or use a sewing machine to finish off this hem. Now, if you need help with a whip stitch, I actually have a tutorial for that. You can look in the description below. Hem the entire length of the ruffle section. Next, let's work with the top section of the skirt. Along one of its longest edges, fold your fabric once following the guide on the paper pattern, and then a second time using a deeper fold just like the pattern shows. Whip stitch along the bottom edge of this casing. I prefer stitching my casing by hand because you can keep the stitches really close to the fold. But using a sewing machine is also okay for this. Just be careful to follow the edge. Now let's work with the ruffle section again. You're going to gather the unhemmed edge of the ruffle, leaving a 1.5 centimeter ungathered edge on both sides of the ruffle. Also, do not tie a knot in your gather thread just yet. Pin the ruffle to the center skirt section, making sure the ruffle gathers are even as you go. Now it's important to keep your right sides together during this step. Once the whole thing is pinned in place, you can tie a knot in your gather thread. Now you'll see a little video clip of me doing this, so I'm just finishing it off after pinning it in place. Stitch the ruffle to the skirt's middle section. Now I'm using a backstitch for this, and again there's a link to my backstitch tutorial in the area below this video. Once complete, your ruffle will look like this. Now gather the top of the skirt's middle section, and once again don't tie off your gather thread until you've pinned the middle section to the top part of the skirt. So that's what I'm doing here. I turn it so we have right sides, and I'm going to pin this middle section to the top. Now that I've evened out my gathers and pinned the middle section to the top section of the skirt, I can knot my gather thread and cut it free. Stitch the middle section to the top section of your skirt, removing the pins as you go along. Again, I'm using a backstitch for this step. Flip up the top section and it's going to look like this. Now measure your fashion doll's waist for elastic and cut 1/8 inch elastic to fit with a slight overlap. Attach a tiny safety pin to one end of the elastic and send the elastic through the casing at the top. That's what you'll see me do here. So I'm pushing my safety pin through the casing. It gets a little blurry for a second, and I apologize for that, but right here I'm sticking a straight pin through the elastic to hold it in place, and then when my safety pin gets to the other end and I remove it, I do the same thing over there. Keep the straight pins in place while you fold the skirt in half like this. So you're about to see me do this. See my straight pins? I keep those in place. I fold the skirt in half. Then I bring these two raw unsewn edges together. Now you're going to sew from the hem to the waist. Be sure to stitch over the elastic several times so it stabilizes it. I used a backstitch, but you could use a sewing machine for this. Remove the straight pins and invert the skirt like you see me doing here. Now you're ready to try the skirt on a doll. I also have a free pattern and tutorial for the top, so be sure to look in the description below for that link to my website, shelleywood.com. And if you look closely, you'll notice the tank top is actually reversible.
What if there was an easy way to take a big doll pattern and resize it to fit a little doll, or vice versa? I'm Shelley Wood, the doll clothing designer, and in my pattern alteration class, I'm going to share with you my resizing formula.
Pattern alteration is when you take a pattern that you already own and you make changes to it. Let's say a dress doesn't fit your doll quite right. I'll show you how to create a gusset to extend the dress's bodice. Along the same lines, I'll show you how to use a doll's body measurements to lengthen and shorten shirt sleeves, and to recreate the pants patterns you already own so they will fit dolls of different shapes and sizes. Following my instructions, you'll learn how to reshape dresses and skirts, making them fuller or less full depending on the look you're going for. With this collection of more than 40 videos, you'll use my measurement guide and dozens of tips and tricks to create a full wardrobe for the doll or dolls of your choice.
I invite you to join me. We are going to have so much fun.